All right, let's finish up this sketch here of Paul the Apostle praying. I want to show you the process of a commission book illustration cover that I'm doing. This is a 16 by 20, will be acrylic on canvas. And so right now I am working on the sketch and just refining some of the details, and I want to show you the process of it so you can do this in your own portrait. Now, first of all, I use a dark umber or dark brown colored pencil. That works really well. Either one of those. And with that then, I am just refining some of the details. Now, if you saw from a previous video, I had traced this up using an overhead projector. But when you use a projector, when you trace an image, it just doesn't give you a really good sketch to sketch upon. You still have to learn how to do freehand sketching or sketching using a grid that you can then utilize in your process of tracing, because the proportions will be off, the likeness will be off, the details, the value contrast won't be there. So I've added some extra detail work, blocking in the values, refining, supplying details that weren't there from the tracing, and I'm showing you the process. So right now I'm working on his hands, and hands are a tricky part of painting, of rendering a portrait. And we'll just zoom in a little bit here. And what I want to do is just show you a little bit more of this process. I'm right now working on the fingers, and I'm blocking in some of the details. So we've got, the middle finger a little bit longer. You can see some of the fingernails. Main thing we want to do is render the contrast between these areas. That's really, really important. So, and I want to make sure the fingers are long enough. Now I have this in shadow. I'm using a reference photo from a photo shoot that I did of myself while I was posing in the lower area of my studio, which is basically like the pig pen of a barn. It's just a area where I store my wood that I use to heat my studio in the winter. But hey, I got this image of myself looking up into the window with some really cool lighting that reminds me of like a Caravaggio painting of the 1600s. And so you can see the detail of the hands, and it's important to get the structures, to get the contrast between these certain areas rendered correctly. And that's what I'm trying to work on right now. So back to the sketch. I'm going to just make sure I have the fingers long enough here. Got to keep in mind some fingers might overlap a little bit. So we've got, this ring finger kind of overlapping the middle finger just a bit. And then we got the pinky finger, which is kind of separated from the ring finger ever so slightly. So that's something to keep in mind too. We want to keep those placements correct. A little bit of a gap then between the bottom of the ring finger, top of the pinky finger. And then again, we've got the overall lighting structure here. Looks like I could make a slight adjustment here. I'm using this nice battery operated eraser, Artisan brand. Works really well. Just takes some AA batteries. They have some also that you can use with a USB charger, and I think those are probably even better. So I might get one of those down the road, but battery operated eraser works well. It's very precise, and it helps you to really erase just some small little areas that you need to. Okay, so going to just add some continued shading here, and we're going to just refine this form a little bit as well. All right, there we go. Also want to get a little more roundness right here, which would be good. Okay, so now I'd like to shift down, and I want to work on this lower area here, showing his clothing and part of the kind of a drinking vessel on the table and the scroll. So let's kind of go down to that part of it. We'll zoom in here, and we want to just kind of block in the major differences in value. So I'm just going to sketch this to let myself know that this should be darker here when I glaze. And this area here can be a little bit lighter right there. So we have a little pocket that's just a bit lighter than the rest. Now we have the scroll, and we're going to kind of shade in a portion of that. We fill this in, just kind of sketch that, and this is where we're turning the form and transitioning then to the area below this bench that I imagine maybe he had. I mean, I just kind of utilized what I had. I'm not sure entirely if this is super accurate for what they had in a Roman prison. I did a little research. It's plausible that it could work. It might not be entirely accurate, but we'll just have to roll with it. Because I don't think we necessarily know exactly what they looked like. We can surmise. You know, even the Roman Mamertine prison, that's very, very popular, that was kind of a Christian pilgrimage site. Even that has been altered, you know, in the process of it being kind of a museum of sorts. So nobody, I think, really knows exactly what they look like. I'm just imagining this is like a blanket or something that he slept on. Maybe he had a blanket, maybe, or it's a cloak. You know, maybe one of his friends brought this in. In the research I did, it appears that oftentimes Christians would visit each other in prison, and they were allowed to bring food and everything, other supplies to the prisoners, to their friends who were imprisoned. And in fact, they were almost expected to bring some food rations in there. If they didn't, the prisoners would likely starve or be very emaciated from lack of nourishment. So when Jesus gave that command, or that proclamation saying, you know, at the end of the age when he judges people, and he said, you know, I was naked, I was in prison, I was sick, and you visited me. And they said, Lord, when did we do this? And he said, well, when you did it to the least of these brothers of mine, you did it unto me. And so it was very, very important for them to visit their fellow brothers and sisters in Christ who were in prison, because oftentimes that's the only way they got the nourishment that they needed to live. Otherwise, they would have starved to death. But again, we could imagine that this is a cloak right down here. And I'm just putting in some shading, and want to make that form a little more believable. So we have a couple of triangular shapes that are suggesting the lighting scenario. And then we can just kind of fill this in, and I'll just put some opposing strokes here just to portray that there's some contrast there. Okay. Now, this drinking vessel, I kind of changed it from what I had in the reference photo. That is just going to be completely dark here. And that's in shadow except for the top of it. And then other than that, we just have the area above, and that would be the window. And so, you know, that's going to let in some light, but I would imagine there'd have to be some bars. I don't know if there were bars or not, but, you know, we need something to portray that this is, in fact, a prison, and it would be, you know, impossible for him to escape. So we just have, you know, a couple of prison bars that we kind of shade in here just to suggest that concept. Okay. So I'm going to pretty much call the sketch done. I might do a little more work on it, but I just want to show you this process. This is where we're at in the sketch. the sketch of Paul the Apostle praying. Hey, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and check out my tutorials at realisticacrylic.com. In fact, I have a special one for you here in the link that's found in the description of the video. So in the top comment and in the description, you can get my Fix Muddy Skin Tones in your acrylic portrait guide, or 12 steps to creating realistic skin tones. So check that out in the link. I'll send that to you. It's a PDF guide that'll help you in your portrait painting. My gift to you just for watching today. But anyway, let me know what you think of this video, and what kind of techniques do you use in your portraits for sketching. Let me know what you think. You know, have you ever done tracing before? Do you think it's okay to trace? Do you think it's cheating to trace? Let me know in the comments below. I found that tracing is a very, very useful tool, but you don't want to depend on it. You do want to also learn freehand sketching and using a grid and some other techniques as well. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. God bless, and we'll talk to you soon.